Balake. Where is Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. Ron.
Ron is right here, everyone. Welcome back for more SPTV, where every day is a great day, not to be in a cult. Not a great day for Scientology. Pedos. Not a good day for those guys. On my channel, I like to have a lot of fun trolling Scientology and exposing Scientology fraud and abuse. But the highest and best use of a channel like this is naming, shaming, and blaming Scientology for all of the instances where it fails to report child SA to the authorities. Looks the other way when people admit to child SA, when people come forward as having been victims of child SA, they treat those victims as if those victims are responsible for what happened to them. The highest and best use of a platform like this is naming, shaming, and blaming Scientology for its horrifically abusive policies and practices and procedures with respect to the cover-up of crimes against children. I could not even believe it when a viewer sent me the information, did an awful lot of legwork and hard work on this, and I thank you for that. Just happened to look up the board of directors of the Scientology organization closest to them. And this is in Anchorage, Alaska. Now, the organization, and just casually see, what? There's so many people, so many former Scientologists talk about the cover-up of these crimes in Scientology. What would happen if I just looked up the people on the board of directors of the organization closest to me, geographically speaking, and just checked into those people, just a Google search, see what comes up. One of the members of the board of directors of the Church of the Scientology organization in Anchorage, Alaska, is a convicted sex offender, registered sex offender, attempted to abuse his own stepdaughter and one of her friends. Pleaded no contest. Did 3.5 years in jail with 1.5 years, was sentenced to 3 years in jail with 1.5 years suspended. So ended up doing 1.5 years in jail. I'm going to show you all the paperwork. And then had a probation violation for alcohol and weed and all that kind of stuff. And of all the people, do you know, none of this would even be coming up if the guy was merely just a public Scientologist who nobody would have any reason to ever know. None of this would even be coming up if he wasn't literally on the board of directors of the Scientology organization in Anchorage, Alaska. Now, the Scientology organization in Anchorage is a Scientology mission. That's worth specifying because I tend to poo-poo and dismiss the importance of missions in Scientology. Missions are privately owned, tiny little Scientology organizations. They pay a licensing fee to the mother church. They're not actually kind of run and operated by the mother church the same way that a normal Scientology organization is. In Scientology, what I'm referring to as a normal Scientology organization, they would call it Class 5 organization. Those are not privately owned in any way, shape, or form. Scientology mission, and a Class 5 organization would almost never, ever, ever close down. The mother church would never allow it. A Scientology mission, however, these things open and close all the time. They're not even open, even a mission that's open and operating isn't even open all the time. It might be open like Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 1 to 6. They might have 1 staff member, 2 staff members. It's a different situation. What makes the Anchorage mission noteworthy is that it's literally the only Scientology organization that I'm aware of in all of Alaska. There is no regular, normal, or Class 5 Scientology organization in Alaska. And that does make the Anchorage mission more noteworthy than many other missions, which I'm very quick to dismiss. Okay, so let's get into some of the meat and potatoes of this thing here. First, I want to show you, and these are official business documents that anyone can get online through official business documents from the state of Alaska that anybody can find online. I've made no effort to redact anything here, and that's why I'm just not going to. Okay, so Church of Scientology, Mission of Anchorage. You can see that right there. The registered agent is Rebecca Lastly, Scientologist. Here we have the board of directors. You can see under Rebecca Lastly, we have Patrick Lastly. I'm a little surprised those are different addresses. I'm assuming they are husband and wife. By the way, there are actually, because this is pretty much the primary Scientology organization in Alaska, there are a surprising number of Scientologists who have had associations with this mission. I think there's even some two relatively high-profile former staff members of this mission who spoke out a number of years ago. If anyone has any additional information to send me regarding what we're going to cover in this video, please message me at growingupinscientology@gmail.com. To the best of my understanding, Rebecca and Patrick should be husband and wife. I could be wrong on that. Maybe they're brother and sister. I really don't think so. Why they have different addresses here? Maybe 1300 East is the business address of the mission. Maybe the other address is their home address. Does that seem to, yeah. What is it? Physical address, 1300. Dun, dun, dun. Yep. It looks like 1300 might be the actual mission address, and Patrick's address might be their actual home. That's my guess. So you have Patrick Lastly right there. Okay. Well, if you go to this website called offenderradar.com and you enter in Patrick Shane Lastly and you click search, you get this search result. Patrick Shane Lastly, Eagle River, Alaska. When you click on that link, you get this search result. Patrick Shane Lastly. Now you might go, Aaron, his name wasn't Patrick Lastly. It was Shane Lastly. Yeah, that's because it goes by his middle name. And if you are a convicted sex offender, you might go by your middle name as well. So you can see here his address, the 11925 address is exactly the same address as on the registration of the mission. Okay, so we have here just some very superficial information regarding his offense and his conviction and all that stuff. However, what I do have is the entire 75-page case file of what happened. And I've made some notes. We're going to go through it somewhat briefly. This is not going to be a very, very long video. I've got a hard stop in about 15 minutes. By the way, you can see Shane Lastly right here on Facebook, close up of that mug, as one more example of how small and tiny and incestuous the Scientology organization actually is. I've never been to Alaska. I've never met Shane or Patrick, whatever his name is. I've got nothing to do with any of the Scientologists in that region. And yet on Facebook, we actually share 12 Scientologist friends in common. Okay, let's go back to this document. We're going to go through some of the stuff here. Okay, so I think this is where this is first talking about his probation violation. He had gotten a DUI around 2004. The paperwork about that DUI makes reference to his 2001 conviction of his sexual assault charges on a minor. If we scroll down a little bit to page 11 here, this is where it first starts to talk about what he's actually been accused of. Count 1, sexual assault in the 2nd degree. Count 2, attempted sexual assault in the 1st degree. And charges 3 and 4, indecent exposure in the 2nd degree. I think that's charge 3 and 4 because there were 2 children involved. Defendant came before the court on October 15th, 2001 with counsel, and pursuant to a no contest plea was convicted of count 1 named above. The defendant was sentenced based on the agreement of the parties and pursuant to Alaska Criminal Rule 11E. His jail, 3 years with 1.5 years suspended. Okay, we're going to jump down to page 16. On or about April 8th, 2001, Patrick Lastly did knowingly and unlawfully engage in sexual contact with J.H. without age 16, without the consent of J.H. from going through the entire case file, at first, I was under the impression that JH was his stepdaughter. It does not appear to be the case. It appears you're gonna see a child referenced as JH and another child referenced as AC. It becomes clear in some of the letters that were submitted at the bottom of this case file that later on in the pages. AC is his stepdaughter. It appears that JH was a friend of his stepdaughter who was at his house with his stepdaughter. And even though what he was charged with, what he was convicted for is in reference to JH, in the investigation and in the letters, it was revealed that he had attempted to sexually assault his own stepdaughter earlier and had simply never been charged for it because she had never gone to the police and it had never come up, to the best of my understanding, until she was being interviewed with respect to the charges against JH. So you have a Scientologist who's not only been convicted of sexual crimes against a minor, convicted on the sex offender registry and everything, but then is known to have earlier attempted to sexually assault his own stepdaughter, who at the time was even younger than JH at the time of the crimes that we're talking about here. And, Scientology likes to talk about, we're here to make the able more able. Wow. This is one of Scientology's slogans. We're here to make the able more able. That kind of means we're here to help people who are already successful and rich and make them more successful and rich. But in David Miscavige's interview with Ted Koppel even asks David Miscavige something about why Scientology doesn't do anything to help the poor and the homeless. And Miscavige, with no self-awareness whatsoever, basically says, other religions up until now have focused on bringing people from like down here up to here. But Scientology is about making the able more able. We focus on the fellow who's already here. He's already competent and effective in his environment. And we want to help him become even more competent and effective. Basically saying, you get a better return on your investment if you focus on helping people who are already able to help themselves. You get more for the mile. Okay, so this slogan, helping make the able more able, it's very important to the DNA of Scientology and as an organization. And yet you have here a guy who's a Scientologist, been accepted as a Scientologist, and is allowed to be on the board of directors of a Scientology organization. How is a convicted sex offender? How does a convicted sex offender fall into the pot of the able? What is it what makes this guy so able? What is it about this guy that makes Scientology go, no, this is one of the ones we want. This guy's a keeper. This guy's a keeper. We're here to make the able more able, guys. Don't judge. Don't judge. He's able. Able to what? Able to try to sexually assault children? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. None of this would even be coming up if he was just another Scientologist. It might eventually come up, but I mean, nobody would have even known about it. Like, it never would have come to my attention. It never would have come to anyone's attention. Nobody knows who this guy is, except he's on the board of freaking directors. It's unbelievable. Okay. On or about April 8th, 2001, Patrick Lastly did knowingly and unlawfully engage in sexual contact with JH, aged 16, without the consent of JH. Okay, we are then going to go a little further down. Okay. Count 3. I think this was the indecent exposure count. Count 3 and 4. On or about April 8th, exact same date, 2001, Patrick Lastly did knowingly and unlawfully expose himself in the presence of AC, age 15, with reckless disregard for the offensive, insulting, and frightening effect that it may have. For whatever reason, in this document at this time, it does not identify AC as Patrick's stepdaughter. Okay. But it does identify AC as his stepdaughter later. And okay, yes, and count 4 is the exact same thing, but with respect to JH. Okay, we're gonna jump down to let's see. I'm actually just, there are parts of this document that get into more specifics about what occurred, and I'm just not sure that I want to include that in my video. Let's see. I've got notes on which pages to go over here, and we'll see here, guys. Okay. The investigation showed that sometime during the evening of April 7, 2001, or the early morning hours of April 8th, 2001, defendant attempted to sexually assault JH, a 16-year-old girl who was spending the night in his home with another family member. Okay, good. The other family member being his stepdaughter, AC. JH told police that the defendant fondled her without her consent while she was on the couch in the defendant's home. She also stated that the defendant then proceeded to remove his own clothing and tried to force himself on her. JH was able to push defendant away and run into another room. Defendant told police that he was intoxicated and did not recall everything that happened that morning, but he did say he remembered waking up in the nude and remembered fondling JH, but he did not attempt intercourse with her. Okay. I got to tell you, some of the most troubling parts of the case file is the parts of the hearing where Patrick Shane Lashley's representation is arguing about why it really wasn't that bad and could have been much worse. Okay, we're going to go to page 36. Okay, I had this noted because at the time that I saw this page, because of the way this section is filled out, it looks like he had a probation violation of additional instance of indecent exposure. As I continued to review the documents, it seemed like that was not the case. And it was simply that there wasn't enough space on this page for them to put all of his counts on the original charge. So this document is actually still saying this is just about his probation violation, and his probation violation was for a DUI and for smoking weed. Guys, I did not know that people on probation were not allowed to even drink beer. I did not know that. They're not even allowed to be in a bar. Did you guys know that? They're not even allowed to be in a place where the primary business is serving alcohol. I had no idea. Okay, the next page I wanted to look at was page 43. This really is the section where Lashley's attorney is arguing why it's really not that bad. I'm not going to read that part. What I am going to do is read the judge's response. Or perhaps it's the prosecutor's response. So after hearing an argument about why it's really not that bad and really could have been much worse, and it was really because of his blackout and he's taken full responsibility for it, and how this is really, a mid-range offender at worst, this person says this is more than a mid-range problem. Behavior with stepdaughter had been called to his attention earlier. And that did not deter him from becoming intoxicated and being around children. He is a dangerous offender. If he does not change his behavior without a significant history, it's hard to evaluate where he falls. It's not so isolated that we can be confident it will not be repeated. Letters from his parents, ... There are millions of single parents that don't look to alcohol, etc. Mid-range of offenders. Check this out. It says something that you don't know, but is referenced in letters. His wife left a year ago. Basically, he's been a single parent from that time until incarcerated. The reason there are numbers on the letters, he wrote those immediately. So this brings up something that I honestly don't have the answer to. If AC was his stepdaughter and JH was his stepdaughter's friends, and if let me see, what was his name again? If Patrick Shane Lastly's wife, which presumably means it was AC's mother, had left a year prior, does that mean his wife left him and left him with custody of his stepdaughter? That couldn't possibly be true, could it? The wife being referenced here, well, it just said that she left. So there is a divorce. There was a divorce case. There is divorce paperwork, and some of that might shed some light on that. But when I was first reading this through, I was like, so wait a second. His wife left him, and then the child's stepdaughter was for some reason still visiting Patrick Lastly with her friends. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense to me either. Someone's trying to call me. Let me quit that. That doesn't make any sense either. And it makes even less sense to think that the wife left, abandoning her daughter and left her with her stepfather. None of this makes sense. But if going through the divorce paperwork sheds any additional light on this, I might revisit this subject. Okay, again, it talks about him being in a state of blackout. Again, a lot of stuff here I actually don't want to read. Okay, let's see. There was a statement from the judge here, I thought. Give me a second. Okay, the court's sentencing comments. He pled no contest to sexual assault in the second degree. His actions were serious ones. He had sexual contact with her. He exhibited an intent to go much farther. She ran and he went after her. He was clearly drunk and or under the influence of other drugs. He has significant drug problems. He started drinking at 10, marijuana at 12. He has known of his drug and alcohol problems. He knows he loses control. If he was in a blackout at the time, my guess is that it's not the first time. He had attempted sexual contact with his stepdaughter, but never did follow through. Okay, we'll read the next page. It gives me a lot of concern about danger to other young women that combined with assault on JH gives me good reason to be concerned. He gets some treatment if evaluation shows he needs some. He has substance abuse problems. He has a good attitude since discovery of this offense. He is sorry, and he has shown he is remorseful. He's not tried to hide behind alcohol. That says something positive about his potential for rehabilitation. Tough road. With help, there is a good chance he will not pose danger to other people. He's amenable to treatment. Very serious offense. That combined with prior attempt with stepdaughter, I think it is incumbent upon me to see that are not repeated. He needs treatment with a bunch of time hanging over him. Jackson 1 case, I don't put at the extreme low end with prior. Well, there you go. 3 years with 1.5 years suspended. This one's confusing to me, guys. It's confusing to me even from a Scientology perspective. In Scientology, you have what's called the potential sources of trouble, PTS, potential trouble source. Generally speaking, in Scientology, someone is called PTS when they have a connection to a known suppressive person, a person antagonistic to Scientology, or just antagonistic to human beings getting better in general. But there's another greater definition of PTS because there's actually A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. Okay, there's 10 types of PTS in Scientology, A to J. And type B, PTS, is criminal. People who come into Scientology with a criminal record or who confess to crimes for which they could be prosecuted and imprisoned, for which the statute of limitations has not expired, these people are generally declared PTS type B, criminal, and they're not allowed to participate in Scientology services or be on lines until that PTS type B declare is lifted. And that thing isn't lifted usually until there's, past the statute of limitations. Someone like this, who's convicted of sexual crimes against children, and who at the time of getting into Scientology was still on the sex offender registry. By the way, it's not clear if he's still in the sex offender registry today, or if he was if it's expired and he's been able to get off it in the last year or two. That's not 100% clear to me right now. This person would normally be declared type B in Scientology. And such a person would never be allowed to be on the board of directors of a Scientology organization. How is it that this has occurred? I mean, this is offensive to anyone, but it should even be offensive to Scientologists. And somehow this has been allowed to occur. Now, I understand everyone's going to be thinking, wait a second, we already know everything they did to Danny Masterson's victims. We already know how disgusting Scientology will be in covering up these crimes, meaning not letting them be known to the authorities, and victim blaming victims of SA. I get it. There's a lot of things that we've discussed and have been revealed that should be offensive to Scientologists. This is one of them, though. This is one of them. One of the things I'm looking forward to doing this video, other than just generally shaming and blaming Scientology for this kind of stuff, is that this should be a problem even within Scientology. There will be fallout within the world of Scientology for it being revealed publicly on the internet that one of the members of the board of directors of the Church of Scientology of Anchorage, Alaska, is a convicted child sex offender. It's absolutely disgusting. Okay, we're going to run through some comments. Let me send a quick text message. Oh, good. Okay, I don't have a hard stop the way I thought that I did. All right, here we go. Ann M. Pedo thought they could hide in Alaska. Yeah, it does seem like the crimes were also committed in Alaska, though. So he's not necessarily hiding there, to the best of my understanding of this. Christy Hughes, I'm in Las Vegas, so I'll check it out over here. Yeah, the stuff that we're talking about here is much more likely to come up, I think, when we're talking about a Scientology mission. There's much less oversight when it comes to Scientology missions than there is to Scientology organizations. I do believe every Class 5 organization does, legally speaking, have a board of directors. They don't actually have any authority as such. But yeah, it's definitely still worth checking out who the board members are of your local Scientology org, even if it's a normal, regular Class 5 org. But let's pay even extra special attention to Scientology missions. Laura Garcia, Aaron, Bob Odenkirk was just on David Cross podcast, and they were talking about L. Ron Hubbard and Xenu and Scientology for the first half of the podcast, making fun of it. Check it out. David Cross and Bob Odenkirk make fun of Scientology a lot, but let me put that on my list. If this was actually recent, I'd love to see it again. David Cross, Bob Odenkirk, recent podcast. All right, I'll check it out. Thank you for that. Brandy Lewis, it looks like your, oh, yeah. There, it looks like your right one is the mission one. It looks like you're right. One is the mission, one is the home. Nice home, 4 bed, 3 baths. All right. Ren listens, is the pedo still in proximity to his stepdaughter? We would have to assume no, but at this point, I don't want to assume anything. Christy Hughes, for the moderators, thank you for keeping us safe. Failed pessimist, how in the F do people do this to children? Yeah. Stasis Piria, intoxicated is not a damn excuse. Absolutely. Ren listens, is this mother of AC? And this mother of AC is still with him? That's the greatest failure, a mother failing to protect their child. I'm going to get, no, they are divorced, and I'm guessing that he got into Scientology after this, and that AC's mother was not a Scientologist. But again, I cannot say for sure because I don't know when exactly Patrick Lastly, aka Shane Lastly, got into Scientology. So for any of you former Scientologists or under the radars out there who know that level of detail, please let me know at growingupinScientology@gmail.com. Okay. Inigo Montoya. I don't recall missions having boards, but maybe. I missed the beginning of this video wondering how this came to light. Usually people have to go through some approvals for operating a mission. You have to become approved as a mission holder. But I don't know what checks and balances are in place to vet people who are on the board of directors. I mean, all corporations, all organizations have to have at least 3 people on their board of directors. You have to have a president, you have to have a secretary, you have to have a treasurer. And also, when it comes to missions, the mission holder is not necessarily the person who's going to be on the board of directors. And as staff cycle through the mission, particularly since missions tend to have a very small number of staff, as you have turnover, you're going to have people swapping out. Who's the president? Who's the secretary? Who's the treasurer? And the mission holder is just the one who pays Scientology for the initial package, the mission holder package. So there is an approval process to become a mission holder. Again, I'm just not aware of the approval process for being on the board of directors. Thank you for the comment. Caroline H., I don't know how some lawyers can live with themselves. There's a difference between granting defense to a criminal and saying that the SA isn't that bad. I totally agree. George Massey, this is so disturbing but necessary to cover. These predators need to be named and shamed. It is. It's also disturbing that important videos like this that talk about important topics like this, because they are disturbing, YouTube very commonly suppresses these videos when they're done by channels that are not run by major media outlets. So do me a favor, guys, as weird as it seems to like a video like this, give it a like if you don't mind. Share it anywhere that you can think of to share it where people would be interested in it, and I would appreciate that. Laura Font, did she leave when the charges came? And it's taken a year to go to trial. There was no trial. He pled no contest. Marissa Martin, PDX, parents who let this happen to their children deserve many charges too. Yes. Lydia Von Stretchclaw, terrifying on many levels. Good to see you, Lydia. Ren listens, the child predator list cannot be expunged. Once on it, it's permanent, no expiry. Okay. Thank you for letting me know. CO Bilf, thank you for covering this and for everything you do. Thank you, CO Bilf. I very much appreciate your help. All right, everyone. That's all we're going to do on this. As unpleasant as this is, it needed to be done. Thank you for watching. Thank you, as always, to everyone who watches until the very end. And actually, I can't help it. I'm going to delete my normal outro for this one, guys. Just going to end it. All right.